Okay, this is part 6 of Federalist number 9. I'll start rereading the end of the third paragraph. I mean the enlargement of the orbit within which such systems are to revolve, either in respect to the dimensions of a single state or to the consolidation of several smaller states into one great confederacy. The latter is that which immediately concerns the object under consideration. It will, however, be of use to examine the principle and its application to a single state, which shall be attended to in another place. So he, again, to remind his audience, he said, look, all the sciences every day are improving, whether it's the natural sciences, whether what we're learning about, the planets that are revolving around the sun, what is in our vicinity as far as our planet goes, all the natural law, natural sciences that, whether it's physics, mathematics, other things that every day our knowledge as human beings improve. He says the same thing has happened with the science of politics. We're learning new things about what governments have to how they have to be framed, shaped, so that not only the government works well, but also your freedoms are not endangered. And he says one of the new things that we've learned about government and a republic is that we can enlarge the area which this republic is going to be made of. He's saying Montesquieu, who's very well known, the French philosopher who'd written The Spirit of the Laws and was translated into English, and majority of these founders knew about it. Montesquieu had said that a republic can only be established in a small place, also where the population is homogeneous, culturally they are the same background. And here Publius Hamilton and later on Madison will say no, you can actually enlarge the republic and build a republic or frame a government for a republic for an enlarged place, for a very large space. So he's going to be talking a little bit about that in the next Federalist 10. Madison will be talking about that. So we will wait and learn more about Montesquieu and his ideas in the later Federalist Papers. And also here at the very end of the paragraph, he says, it will, however, be of use to examine the principle and its application to a single state, which shall be attended to in another place. He's getting the readers ready for the next Federalists, especially what will become Federalists 18, 19, 20, that they will delve deep into history of different confederacies and see what the problem was with them and explain that to the readers, to the Americans that he wants to inform. And remember, in a way, that is what we are doing. We're trying to learn the strengths and the weaknesses of the American federalism and other federal systems, so that one day we can unite, humanity can unite under a new blueprint and take advantage of the experience that these federal systems provide us and design this better plan, this better blueprint. I'll go to the next paragraph. The utility of a confederacy as well to suppress faction and to guard the internal tranquility of states as to increase their external force and security is in reality not a new idea. It says we've already talked about this, you know it, majority of you Americans, readers know it, that it's better to have a confederacy like we had when the war started to defend ourselves from our enemies, the British invasion, what the British were wanting to do. And also, we all know that in case there is a rebellion, when we are united, we can actually raise a bigger army to put down the rebellion. And remember, anytime they talk about the rebellion and also uprising, things like that, it's not just the white population of America that might rise up, like in the case of Shays's rebellion, when the taxes were high, when they were broke, when they were their farms, their houses was taken away because they had not paid their debts. They were also talking about the enslaved people rising up. So they don't say it directly, but that's exactly what they mean. So we'll go to the next sentence. It has been practiced upon in different countries and ages and has received the sanction of the most applauded writers on the subject of politics. The opponents of the plan proposed means the opponents of this constitution that we are asking you to ratify. With great assiduity cited and circulated the observations of Montesquieu on the necessity of a contracted territory. Contracted territory means a small territory for a republican government. He says our opponents, the anti-federalists, those who are writing articles in the papers and criticizing this constitution, they're saying, they are quoting, they are talking that Mr. Montesquieu has said repeatedly that a republic can only be established in a good place. But see here what Hamilton says. But they seem not to have been apprised of the sentiments of that great man expressed in another part of his work, nor to have adverted to the consequences of the principle to which they subscribe with such ready acquiescence. So he says, yes, Montesquieu, in a part of his work, he's mentioned that. He says republics should be homogeneous, small, but he says they have not paid attention to what he said in other parts of his work, in other parts of his book, The Spirit of the Laws. Okay? And then he goes to the next paragraph and says, when Montesquieu recommends a small extent for republics, Montesquieu recommends and says a small republic will work, the standards he had in view were of dimensions far short of the limits of almost every one of these states. Neither Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, nor Georgia can by any means be compared with the models from which he reasoned and to which the term of his description apply. He says, if we just follow what Montesquieu says and just without thinking about it, just accept what he says, then look at all these states that I just named. State of Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, and Georgia. All of them will be too big. And here in a little bit, he's going to say, well, if you're going to go with what Montesquieu says, if you're going exactly with what he says, then you have to divide up these states into small counties and make republics out of those. He says it doesn't make sense. We already have republics, 13 republics, and a lot of them are much bigger in size than Montesquieu says. So our experience has shown that it doesn't have to be that small of a space for a republic to work. So he says, indirectly saying Montesquieu is wrong right here. If we therefore take his ideas on this point as the criterion of truth, we shall be driven to the alternative either of taking refuge at once in the arms of monarchy. If we really go with what Montesquieu says, we either have to create a monarchy, find a king for ourselves, and put him as our leader, or of splitting ourselves into an infinity of little jealous, clashing, tumultuous commonwealths, the wretched nurseries of unceasing discord, and the miserable objects of universal pity and contempt. So he says, if we go with what Montesquieu says, if we follow his logic, we either have to bring a monarch and get a king for ourselves, because he says republics can't be shaped in a big landscape, big place, so we already have big places and it's working, so he's wrong. Or he says if we follow his other advice, then we have to divide state of New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia into hundreds of localities, hundreds of small places, and create 100 republics. And look at the words he uses. He uses these beautiful words. He says, then we are going to be we're going to make ourselves into infinity of little jealous, clashing, tumultuous commonwealth, the wretched nurseries of unceasing discord and miserable object of universal pity. All we'll be doing is fighting, discord, disagreement, distrust, except we're going to multiply it by hundreds. It'll be a nursery. It'll just keep on creating headache for us. So it says, this is not going to work. You shouldn't agree with that. Okay, I'll stop here and continue in the next